So what we want to talk about today is what we're seeing among the consultants that we talk to in terms of the divergent attitudes as we approach 2026 and as we talk to consultants about their future, next year, their goals, what's possible for them, what they're trying to achieve, what they're looking forward to, what they're worried about, what they're nervous about, where their fear lies. We're having all these conversations both with our clients and with folks who want to work with us and are applying to work with us. And there's some really interesting data coming out of it, which is what we want to explore today.
Yeah, and often when we have these conversations, it's very nuanced, right? Like people live on a continuum and, everyone has bits and pieces of different ways of thinking. But in this particular context, I feel like if we went to our clients, we could very easily divide them into two distinct categories. And I think that would be interesting to break down today, because there's arguably one category that you want to be in and one that makes your life much more challenging. And you end up in that category because of your personality, because of your experience, because of, the influences around you. And often you don't really think about it, right? We all think that the way we think just makes sense. But I want to talk about how one particular way of thinking really sets you up for success in a way that another very common way of thinking does not.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that both of these categories, by and large, got beat up in 2025. like a lot of people got beat up in 2025 and 2024 for that matter. For some folks, hard times hit in 2024. For some folks, it hit in 2025. And there are folks who didn't see much disruption. To be honest, we're probably not talking to them as much, right? The folks who are still doing really well and didn't see any major disruption in their work in the past few years, they're not reaching out to us for help. So our sample size, to be clear, is the folks that have seen some disruption. And even within that group, I think there's two very distinct attitudes and mindsets that we're seeing. So, do you want the good news or the bad news first, Carrie?
Start with the bad. I like to end on a good note.
Okay. So there's definitely a category of folks, and I mean, I'm going to struggle with labels here, but I would characterize them as being nervous. I want to say scared. Scared is a little bit maybe too strong of a word. Nervous, probably more accurate. Tentative, if you will. Kind of like, 2025 wasn't great. Now they're still in the game, and that's the good news. I'm not counting folks that are out of the game, right? I'm not counting folks that have gone off and gotten a job and kind of closed the door on their consulting business for the time being. That's a different category. I'm talking about the folks who are still in the game, still doing work, still serving clients, still maintain hope in a better 2026, a better future, a better landscape. But they're tentative. They're kind of, battered and bruised from 2024, 2025. They typically have had some clients hit pause, exit the relationship prematurely. Maybe a whale client left, and they might have picked up some work here and there, but by no means have they returned to the level of revenue that they were at previously, or they're fairly new to consulting and have not yet been able to replace their income. And the signals that they're getting from the market in terms of difficulty getting conversations, difficulty getting the attention of their market, difficulty progressing deal conversations, difficulty closing. All of this has them feeling nervous and tentative heading into 2026, hoping something changes, but not quite sure if it will.
Yes, but I want to go back to something that we said a little bit earlier, which is I also think that the second kind of person that we're going to talk about could have had the exact same experience, right? They've also maybe had a rough go. They've also had their big client walk away. They've also found it tough. They've also realized that their particular offer maybe isn't landing the way that they want it to. And what's really different when we talk to these folks is regardless of what they've been through, they approach it in a different way, right? They look at it in a different way. So I 100% agree with you that this group that we're talking about that is likely to struggle more is tentative, is nervous, is hesitant, is holding back, is maybe a little bit more pessimistic. And also we can talk to people who have gone through the same thing or worse, who have the second, quote unquote, personality type.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to say that out loud is I think, if you're sitting out there and you've had a rough year or you're feeling nervous or anxious or tentative, it can be really easy to justify it, right? Well, of course I feel this way. It's okay for me to feel this way because it's been rough, right? Or I've had a challenge or this has been my journey. And what I want to say to you, if you're listening, is that the way you approach the future and your experience in the past don't have to be tied together in the way that you may think they do.
I think right away, just acknowledging that that's been the experience of a lot of consultants, it's probably worth hearing for you, the consultant, because sometimes we take for granted that we have this perspective or vantage point, having trained and spoken to God knows how many consultants this year. But you, the listener, you've got, a sample of one. You have your experience, maybe a couple of friends, but you're very limited in terms of the perspectives you have. So let us be very clear in telling you that if you had a rough go, 2025, 2024, you are likely in the majority. You are likely alongside the vast majority of your consulting peers in and having that experience. So let's normalize that. It's not unique. You're not the only one. It's not your fault necessarily. The market has wreaked havoc on consultants at large. I think there are some who are doing really well, either because they were able to rebound, and we'll talk about some of that today, or perhaps some other circumstances insulated them from some of the market effects, but that's very much the minority. Now, heading into 2026, let's talk about the two different mindsets, because some folks will come out of this stronger. Some folks will come out of this more resilient. Some folks will come out of this with better businesses, more revenue, more clients, more opportunity, and some will come out of it worse off. And I think what we're trying to get at here is the market had the same effect on everybody, right? The market's not discerning. The market didn't say, you consultant X, like, we're going to mess you up. But consultant Y, no, you're fine. Like, the market is, undiscerning in its impact. It impacted everybody. And therefore, the way that you react to what the market threw at you, the way that you react to what happened over the past year or 2 years, both from a kind of mindset perspective, attitude, identity, philosophy, and in terms of a strategic tactical perspective, very much determines where you're going to end up a year from now. Are you going to be one of the consultants who took advantage of the opportunity, and there will be opportunities? Or will you be one of the ones who kind of buried your head in the sand and waited for things to get better?
So let's talk about how these folks show up. That's what everyone wants to know, right? Where's the path that's going to help me, lead me to success?
Yeah, and honestly, perhaps even before we go there, let's spend a little bit more time on the on the negative, if you will. I think what I'm seeing really characterizes the folks that are, quote unquote, burying their heads in the sand is a lack of action, a lack of initiative, a lack of willing to try something new or different. Right? This is very much this is the waiting game camp. Well, I'm going to wait for my network to come back to life. Now it's December. I'm going to wait for January.
Yeah.
And in the summer, I was waiting for Q3.
Yeah.
And in Q3, I was waiting for Q4. And now I'm waiting for Q1. So let's wait for my market to come back, my network to reactivate, the economy to rebound. Let's wait for all these, both macro and microeconomic forces that are completely outside of my control. So I feel helpless. But yet I'm not really willing to do anything materially different apart from wait around.
Yep.
Now, what happens to these folks? Best case is the network does wake up, the market does rebound, and they end up either where they were at their previous peak or somewhere just under it, right? Best case is they end up where they were because they're doing nothing to go out there and build new relationships or build new offers or whatever it may be. They're not taking advantage of any kind of opportunity. They're merely waiting around for what they had before to come back. Best case, they get it back, and worst case is they don't.
Yeah. And what's unfortunate about that, I mean, a lot of things that are unfortunate about that, but if things do happen to come back, then it also feels like it was the right thing to do, right? To just wait. And that reinforces this feeling that you're just at the mercy of the wind of the market, right? That you can just sit back and wait and see what happens. It's either going to be good, it's going to be bad, it might suck, it might be amazing. And it really takes away the feeling of self-determination or efficacy that if, when we start talking about the other type of person is the thing that will really help you move forward. Because it can be, either way, it is reinforcing because you just keep presuming that if you wait long enough, something will happen, something good, something bad, and you're just at the whim of, everything around you.
I can't help but think about the restaurant during COVID as
Sure.
an example here, as a metaphor, right? Because look, in the beginning, and I'm using restaurants as an example because, they are an example of the hardest hit industry during COVID, right?
Yeah.
Knowledge workers work from home. It's fine, right? But restaurants, hotels, hospitality, nobody was going out. So everybody kind of felt in the beginning that, well, this is temporary, right? Let's get it under control. Let's give it a month, 2 months, whatever it may be. No one thought we'd be in lockdown for months on end. And you could forgive most restaurants for thinking, okay, let's just hold it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some forgiveness on the rent from our landlord, some government subsidies or grants, and let's just hold it out. And then you started noticing many started to pivot, right? Takeout only, double down on Uber Eats, etc. And over time, there were two camps that emerged.
Yeah.
Those who were taking advantage of the current circumstances, takeout business, and those who were really holding out on their dine-in customers to return.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need to look much further than your local restaurant scene to see who survived and probably came out stronger as a result because of customer loyalty and who didn't survive.
Yeah. I think that's a brilliant comparison because it leads us to, a really important component of being a consultant, which is paying attention to the market, right? Which is understanding what's happening around you and understanding what it is that your clients need and want in any particular moment. And so if we look again at these two camps of people, we see the one camp that digs in, that holds on to their offer, that holds on to their, to their niche, that holds on to their market and just, white knuckles it through, waiting for those people to appear, to come back to them. And then you have the, the go-getter group. We still haven't thought of any names for them. We'll come up with a good categorization in a moment, but we have this kind of go-getter group that says, okay, hold on a minute. I see that things are different. What does that mean, right? Where can I make a shift? Where can I decide to do something a little bit differently or a lot differently? Because that's what's needed right now. And so I would say that's one of the hallmarks of this divide is the hold on, the wait and see, the, I have my heels dug in, I'm not going to change. And the, what, things happen. We've certainly seen over the last several years, so much change in the market for many, many reasons. The second group saying, I'm going to pay attention to that. I'm going to do something about it. I have the opportunity to move and, shift.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of it comes down to, this is like an entrepreneur thing. We're talking to consultants, obviously that's our market, but
yeah.
This applies to any type of entrepreneur. A lot of it comes down to your relationship with change.
Mm-hmm.
And let's understand that human nature is to be adverse to change. what the human brain loves is familiarity, because there's safety in familiarity. And so therefore the human brain is constantly trying to keep you safe by maintaining the familiar. And so you already have this kind of predisposition to keeping things the way they are. This is why often consultants who, let's say, are making 200-300K a year with a whale client or two, they see that as risky because the majority of their income is coming from like one or two sources. So they can rationally see that as risky, and maybe even see that they could make $500,000 a year if they reduce their reliance on these whales, but will very rarely actually do anything to change their situation because there's safety in the familiarity of those relationships, much like there's safety in the familiarity of having a job and collecting a paycheck, and the risk of disrupting that is often too great. And so this is what we're seeing now among these two camps is we still don't have good labels, right? But the one camp was it bad camp and good camp. No, that's not good. They're all good people everywhere, right? Good people on both sides. But the one camp is very resistant to change. And again, to go back to the restaurants, I mean, I think everybody read the writing on the wall eventually, right? That we're going to have to pivot our business model, take advantage of takeout business, because this thing doesn't seem to be going away as fast as we thought it would. Everyone got there eventually. The challenge is some went out of business before they got there, right? So the first camp is very resistant to change, very slow to change, very much holding out hope that things will come back as if it's a bit of a fantasy. And the second camp is quicker to change, faster to embrace change, faster to go, okay, the type of work I was doing before doesn't really seem to be in demand anymore. It's not what they're looking for because the market has changed, dynamics have changed, the pressures facing my clients have changed, therefore their priorities have changed. So what I used to sell, maybe one day that comes back, great, but right now it's not what they're buying. So what else are they buying? What are their new needs? What are their new priorities? What are their new challenges? And this second camp is very quick to embrace those changes and the opportunities underlying them.
Mm-hmm. So the question I would be asking if I were listening to this podcast, and I can see myself in the first camp, is how do I become that other person, right? How do I make the shift? How do I move from feeling afraid and nervous and, just in this wait and see mode to a more proactive stance?
Yeah. What's the answer? I have a thought.
Well,
what's yours?
Yeah. So I think, to me, I believe this is one of those cases where you need to act before you believe, right? Trying to sit back and change how you think about something, really rough. We've all tried it in a bunch of different ways, right? In our quest for self-improvement as human beings. But often what is more helpful is, acting as if, right? Doing the thing. And then eventually the way you feel about it will catch up. And in this particular case, there are many things that you can do, right? There's a particular path. I mean, we talk about it all the time in our program, right? Here, we shift people from one to the other often because we give them the tools that they need. We give them the path that they can follow. And then when they start to see that, living in this different space where you are being more proactive and taking a different kind of accountability gets you a different result, then suddenly the mindset starts to follow it. So to me, I think it's about that. It's about understanding the steps you can take, taking them, and then, eventually you'll catch up to yourself.
Yeah. So yesterday on the mindset lesson, we do a mindset lesson every Monday inside of 90-Day Pipeline. I took our clients through an exercise called the Odyssey Plan. Have you heard of this, Carrie? Have you done that?
I have not.
So the Odyssey Plan is an exercise that came out of Stanford's design thinking school. And they've got this really popular elective called Design Your Life, I think it's called.
Yes.
And this is an exercise from within that course. And basically what the Odyssey Plan has you do is it has you develop multiple versions of the future. So you have your plan A. Plan A is the thing that you're working on right now, the path that you're on, the business you're building. When it succeeds 5 years from now, where do you end up? That's your plan A. And then it has you, and I won't go through the whole thing. It's just this one piece is what's really important to our conversation. Then it has you develop a plan B.
Mhm.
And the prompt for plan B is plan A is non-existent. You can't do plan A. The doors are shut.
Mhm.
That's taken away from you. You cannot go down that path. What do you do instead? That's your plan B, right? And
Mhm.
so a lot of folks initially struggle with this because you spend, myself included, we spend all of our time and energy, thinking about our plan A, developing our plan A, strategizing our plan A, articulating the end state that we'll achieve when plan A works. The notion of closing that door and having to do something else altogether, which might not be, like, it's not like you go open up a dry cleaner, right? But different market, different offer, different service, obviously leveraging whatever skills and capabilities that you have is initially a really challenging thing to figure out. But once you figure it out and you have, some detail there, what it shows you, and this is part of the point of the exercise, is there's multiple variations of the future that are acceptable. Your plan A is good. Your plan B, once you develop it, is also good, even if it has nothing to do with plan A. So that is to say that there are other ways for you to make money. There are other ways for you to deliver value. There are other business models. There are other service offerings. There are other markets that you can enter. The one that you've been in is not necessarily the be all and end all. There might be something completely better than what you've done before out there for you. And this shifting, kind of changing market conditions really is an opportunity for you to go out there and discover, is there something else out there that's better than what I was doing before?